I began my YouTube channel a little over a year ago as a supplement to the course I was teaching at the University of Rhode Island, Aspects of Postmodernism. It was useful then as a way to help students who hadn't had a lot of reading in the history of philosophy approach what is a very hard and difficult text, Jacques Derrida's Of Grammatology. This semester, I'm teaching the same course that I was teaching in the spring semester before the summer, which is English 201, Principles of Literary Study, a kind of march through different modes of interpreting literature or engaging with or studying literature. And because of that overlap, or because of that repetition, I haven't quite been as active as I would have liked to be on my channel over the past few weeks. If students had questions or have questions about psychoanalytic literary criticism or Sigmund Freud, I simply directed them to the videos I recorded last semester, even if our texts are a little different, instead of recording a new video. If students especially have questions about deconstruction, I could direct them to those videos I shot or recorded and uploaded last semester, or even to the videos I recorded over a year ago on Derrida specifically. And so to try to generate some new content, I'm launching a new set of videos that I'm hoping many students taking many different kinds of courses across many institutions might find useful. A series I'm subtitling Episodes in Theory and Criticism. Exciting, I know. In some sense, I'm preparing these videos for me. It's really a personal project in an effort to keep some materials fresh in my own mind and also to publicize my expertise in talking about and or teaching them. But I do hope, a few strangers, random strangers, will watch them and even respond to them. At best, I hope to spark some intrigue or even some conversation about texts to which scholars and students in the humanities often refer, but texts, I find, which do not really seem to be read all that much anymore. We in the humanities have settled too often, I think, for shorthand versions of some rather complicated terms and positions and interventions in the history of thought and feeling. And I hope to do my part to reopen and maybe even to recomplicate them. I aim to approach these texts generously and graciously, even when offering my own criticisms and challenges, especially since I find way too much reactive or dismissive gesturing at conferences and in classrooms, a bit too much shortcut bolstering of one's own credibility by being suspicious of or taking down seminal critics and theoreticians or philosophers, whether they be Cleanth Brooks or Hegel or Kant or Michel Foucault. My approach, or the texts I choose, or the rubric by which I choose texts, is really just random and non-chronological, and will just sort of go by the accidents of whatever book I happen to be reading at the time, though I will try to provide a bit of background for whatever text I'm talking about, at least when it feels necessary to do so. Despite my stated intentions to be generous, these videos do occupy a normative position and have a normative project in mind, namely to demonstrate and celebrate the significance of reading difficult, seemingly outmoded, or refreshingly controversial texts. In other words, I want to perform a mode of reading that aims to accept each text as a singular reading task. To read Hegel, after all, is a much different project than reading Wimsatt and Beardsley. Indeed, to even compare the texts of these writers is to discover that the word reading incorporates a number of activities and passivities, reflexes, that combine in a number of different ways when we engage and respond to this text or that text or what have you. Given this position on reading, which I'll be happy to sort of flesh out in future videos, I've titled this series Reading Tasks, and this is the first video in that series. Each text, author, or term I take up in the coming weeks, maybe the coming years, is not just a stopping point in the history of theory and criticism, and not just about literature or about culture, but an assignment that I reassign myself, and that I intend to approach, read, and learn from on its own terms, at least as best as I can.